Hey, everybody, and welcome to episode 1 million.
49. We're almost at 150.
Yay.
A lot of talking.
Nobody knows the difficulty of our life in trying to, because I always think you try and relate it back to some like lesson for them. And I'm just kind of like, I'm down to just bullshit. Like, let's just, 149 episodes of insightful water sport advice. Like, if we were the awkward pizza guys, could you fucking imagine? You'd be like, what kind of dough are you using? It's like,
Yeah,
God
but
damn.
I think that this is kind of a lifestyle podcast too. So it's not always
Agreed.
about business, but it's about like what do water sport operators do? Like it's not like we live and breathe boat rentals all day long. We have other lives, we do other things. And it's funny when we go to these conferences and we talk to everybody, like we're all into similar things. Like we're into investing, into similar hobbies. Um,
Drinking, bunch of
yeah, drinking.
alcoholics,
Yeah, there's quite a bit of that.
jacuzziing.
Yeah, I think that's just me though.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I
You and Alex.
yeah, Alex, yeah. That's
And
right.
Spa Cruzy.
Spa Cruzy.
Yeah.
So I got a couple announcements. So the first one is we started a corporate sponsorship program with the podcast, and I'll just preface this. Kevin and I, we're not looking to get rich off this podcast by any means, and I think those of you who have listened for the past 3 years, you understand. Like we really do love this. Like we love having these conversations. We love meeting new people. But we do have someone that helps us with the podcast, so we do have cost. So, having some.
We love this. Maybe you love this.
So, I love the podcast part of it, not doing all the back end work. That's not the fun part. But so we did hire someone recently, and maybe one day we'll get him on the show. Kevin, I don't think you haven't met Tristan yet, but he's been doing all of our video clips and really pumping up our content and social. So we have cost, and we need to, pay for him and his services. So, we started this podcast sponsorship program, and we have our first podcast sponsor, and that is Dustin with Conversion Assist. So I want to give a big shout out to Dustin with Conversion Assist. If you don't know what Conversion Assist is, it's a automation tool that you can hook into your Res Tech, or even if you don't have a Res Tech, you can use this, but it helps automate a lot of things like reviews and customer communication. Um, it can do a whole lot. And Dustin did a really great presentation at our last year's forum, which I think got some of the biggest reviews from our attendees.
Well,
So,
it's utilizing like your something that no one utilizes, I think, in water sports, which is a CRM. So
yeah,
all businesses like so you technically have a quasi a CRM inside of your res tech, but you're not optimizing it, you're not using it. And I'm not gonna this isn't gonna be an episode on CRMs or anything like that, but to Greg's point, like Dustin utilizes your CRM for customer outreach via automations. And beyond that, like he's not a one man show, but he's definitely like America or Steve from the other marketing agencies that they're on the phone. He's on the phone when you need him. Like Dustin will walk
yeah,
you through and kind of explain to you like where there's probably some missed opportunities. So while this is technically a paid sponsorship while we're talking about Dustin, but I mean, we've talked about him on the past when he
yeah,
wasn't, paying us to do so. So all these paid sponsorships, like the people that do sponsor the event or sponsor the podcast itself, are of high value. We're not out here shilling for Fair Harbor or for Viator or anything like that, and we could, and we don't. So
yeah. And
it's
and
it's up
and
it's up to you guys to,
So
sorry.
Dustin was a tour operator, or currently I'm not sure if he still has his business or he has a partnership, but Dustin is in the business. It's funny, like all of our sponsors are pretty much come from the tour industry as an operator. America Von Mack, she worked for a tour operator for several years. Steve owns a tour operation. So all of these vendors we have, they're in the thick of it. Like, they've been there. And I think that's what makes, these vendors and sponsors even more viable for our listeners, is just because they know the problems that you face. So, just go to conversionassist.me, I think it is. But you can also hit Dustin up in the group. I think he's offering for any AWG listener, you get 20% off annual plan. So yeah, give it a try. Next is, we talked about, I'm gonna make this real short, but every show we're gonna talk about our conference, because that's kind of like our Super Bowl for the show in the community. October 21st and 22nd in St. Augustine at the Guy Harvey Resort. I'm going to make sure that Kevin is wearing all Guy Harvey wardrobe.
Mm-hmm. Guy Harvey shirt, maybe some, not Tap Out. What was that other horrendous brand? Like the designer jeans, Afflicted. I'll have my Affliction jeans on.
Yeah.
My Guy Harvey shirt.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I think I had a Guy Harvey shirt when I was a kid, of a big, like, mahi.
Probably had a Gay Harvey shirt on when you were a kid.
So we're doing something a little different. So we're going to cap it at 100 attendees this year, mainly because we want a more intimate setting for a more immersive learning, one-on-one, and we don't really have a huge venue either. So, just in the last week, we had 15 tickets sold. So 15% without even really doing any marketing. So what that tells you is you need to get your tickets early, and we really appreciate it because it helps us with a lot of planning. It's a 2-day event. Last year was 1 day. We will go into more details on what the programming will be once we set up the speakers, but you can go to watersportpodcast.com, go to 2024 conference. Our room block is there where you can get your lodging reservations, you can buy your tickets, and
your hard sell game is fucking on point, dude. Like,
good.
I've never heard such an impassioned pitch. We need some sponsorships because we got guys to pay, and we're gonna have 100-person event as opposed to our 5,000-person event that we had last year. Getting, like, you need to go back to episode like 85 or whatever where I talk about selling. Yeah, no. So like to Greg's point, and all of this stuff that we do, it adds up to real action, right? Real execution, having conversation with other operators, having one-on-one conversations with experts in the industry that have helped push, tens and if not hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. Last year we had Chris from Red Hospitality. I'm blanking. Chris, what the fuck is his last name?
Bachelor.
We had Chris Bachelor from edit that out. We had Chris Bachelor from Red Hospitality. Past events, we've had Douglas Quinby, the founder of Arrival. Like, all of these guys that we have at these events, even at the top level, some of the talking heads, super smart guys. And then we just have leaders in the industry that are giving of their time, that are participating in best practices. And I can tell you, if you're listening to this show for the first time, or you're just getting hip to this show, I can tell you, it's a warm segue into today's episode, where Greg and I are just kind of like, don't have necessarily a topic, but I was in Southwest Florida recently. And I still saw some of the stuff that I don't know if we're not reaching people there or what these guys are doing, but I saw a lot of really successful operations who weren't doing any of the things that we've been preaching about on this show for the last 3 years. If you're a veteran of the show or a veteran in the industry and you're like, I'm doing all the Google pay-per-clicks, I'm doing all the retargeting on social media, I'm on all the platforms, I'm utilizing a CRM, my call center and my sales are dialed in, our finances are tip-top, we're really hitting the mark at 90% of everything we need to be hitting it on. I would probably say that it's in part because of the best practices that we preach on this show. But I see the market, right? Like I'm actually out there beating down doors. Steve and I were out there a couple weeks ago talking to operators about take my boat test. And I still see it like rampant in the industry. I haven't gotten down to the Keys yet. That's coming next. I haven't been to the eastern part of the state. That's coming too. But I still see a lot of operators with a lot of missed opportunities. And I would venture to say it's because that you guys are still basically, there's one of two things that I see happening. Either A, they're elbows deep still in the business and doing the oil changes, bottom painting the boat, sanding the stuff, or they've passed it off and they pretty much have a hands off business that they've handed it to a manager, right? So this is kind of this in between, I think, for business owners where either you can't scale your business anymore and it makes what it makes, which is a large majority of guys that have been in the business for 5-10 years or longer. And they've kind of handed the keys to the kingdom over to somebody who kind of doesn't care. Like I could tell you that like my operations manager, my mechanic, like none of them listen to this stuff. Like I still have to stay on top of a lot of things from the top level and say like, oh, like to this point, like we're offering a new product at Destiny, and I handed it off to my partner, Ilya, and it was like 2 weeks had gone by and I wasn't CC'd on the email, and I jumped in the email because I was like, hey, why isn't this product up? And it was just like an hour-long thing, right? Because we're not going to get into it, but somewhere there was a disconnection, right? And I believe that happens in water sports, probably in most businesses all the time. When an owner takes his hands off the operations, it does what it does. It has its points on it. It's making 20%, 17%, whatever it is, and they walk away. And so they miss out on all the opportunities of the changing landscape of not just water sports business, but business in general. Like things change, have to remain competitive. I feel like, especially since 2022 as well, there's just kind of been this attitude in the industry where it was like, it's like GME, right? Like we're talking about what we're into. It's just like, well, we already kind of saw that happen. We saw this big rush and it is what it is. Like there's not all the bottom line revenue that we see from all the off season and extra money that was in the economy and time that people had to spend. So it's like kind of like back to 2019 levels. And if you're relegated to a certain amount of space or a certain amount of boats, or you're offering and maybe people are looking elsewhere, but depending on how much revenue you're doing, like some of that stuff just really adds up to a lot of bottom line additional revenue. So I still see it. Even just like looking online and at websites, I see it. And then actually having the opportunity to go to their locations was just like,
the thing about I'm going to make a point, and I think this is one of the most important points about the industry, is that our industry is a bottom to top funnel opposed to owner. When it comes to ownership and management, it's bottom to top instead of top to bottom. What I mean by that is that typically water sport owners start as a mate, or they work as a dock hand, and then they learn the business, they buy a couple skis or a couple boats, and then they build their business from there. Opposed to a lot of businesses where you have some white collar dude who, like franchising, for example, is a good, like, people have some money, they see an opportunity to franchise a restaurant or something, and then the money comes from the top, or they work in some white collar job and then they buy a business or start a business from there. But a lot of the industry is from people who have worked on the front lines, and they start with a few pieces of equipment. And I can give probably 100 examples of this from my talkings. And so they don't come from an industry where they're learning all of these skill sets like finance and um, operation management and HR. They're not learning all these things, so they're kind of learning everything as they go. And so it's a very cottage industry. It's very fragmented. So a lot of these, they just want to literally deal with walk-ups all day long, like walk-ups, cash, real simple credit card fees. They want to, like you said, wrench on skis. Like does that make sense? It's just a bottom to top industry. And I think that's where like we're trying to change that with the show and the community, as to give people those tools and information that they're not getting working as a dockhand or working as a mate.
So what's funny is like because of that, I see this attitude, right? Like it's fucking so pervasive that like some of these guys sort of like hate the business and hate their customers, right? Like I can't tell you how many times when we're on the road and look, man, like I'm t-shirt, sunglasses on, I'm not wearing a suit. I walk up to the kiosk and it's like this attitude, man. And granted, they had every right in the world to come with the attitude if they knew that I was knocking on their door to try and sell something. Yeah. But I 100% did not, like, you know what I mean? How many times do you have a rap at your door and you're like, probably someone trying to sell me something. I'm standing at their kiosk. I mean, 999,999 times. That's a customer. And I can't even tell you how many people, like I had one guy, he was flushing his skis. And I mean, skis look like shit. I mean, he frankly looked like shit and sunburned. Like I presume he was the owner. Like he was a little bit old to be like a dockhand. He had a little kiosk, typical water sports setup, jet skis sitting on the docks. And I mean, he kind of like looked over his shoulder at us and just ignored us and just like was kept on flushing his jet skis. I had to go walk up to him and be like, hey man, do you have a minute? And then he was just like, kind of like, like go fuck yourself. But I've seen captains like this. Like I see it at Parasail all the time. Mid-July, burnt out, don't want to deal with anyone, super rude. Like, like you're doing somebody a favor. And I was explaining it to Steve. I'm just like, some of these guys hate their business. Like they really do, because you're out in the sun, you're out there 12 hours a day, you're dealing with all this bullshit. And even in the group, there's this sentiment that like our customers, like you'll hear all the time, oh, customer's an idiot. Mm-hmm. They're a fucking idiot. I hear that all the time. Fucking stupid customers. I'm like, well, awesome relationship to have with the people that are fucking giving you money, man. Like the rest of the world doesn't operate like that. No business in 2024. Imagine if you call the Amazon, they're like, what'd you do now? You fucking moron. Like, you ordered the wrong thing?
But think of it this way. What if all you knew your entire life was water sports? So when you came to that time in your life where like, okay, I need to like buy my own equipment and start my own business. Like that's the next evolution, but they really don't love it, but that's all they know. And I see this all the time. 15 years of doing this. It's all they know. And they're like, okay, I want to make more money, but I really don't but this is all I know. Cause I've been doing it since I was 16. So then they get into it and they still hate it. They still hate the customers, but that's all they know. It's easy. They can make money doing it. And that's the problem. And those are the ones that don't give a shit about the compliance and safety and all the things that are important to the legitimate operators. Just imagine if you had to go to a trade school to start a water sport business. And honestly, I think you should, to learn compliance and insurance and safety. Like it shouldn't be easy to start a rental business, not in 2024 when there's so much at stake from an insurance and compliance perspective, and then just keeping people safe. Like I just, I think things need to change a little bit, but I think just maybe the low barrier to entry, and maybe not in our area, is a lot higher, but in other markets.
I love this topic. Can you give me, I need 2 minutes.
Okay.
I got to break. I'm so sorry, man, but I've got to attend to this real fast. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that, Kimosabi. Oh no. What happened?
Oh, can you hear me now?
Oh yeah, I can. Yep.
Okay, I had to just turn my
Yep. All right.
off here.
Yeah. So, to your point about that, it's like I the last thing in the world I want to do is be the guy who like comes out and like argues for more legislation or says like we need some type of like training embedded, because there's a lot of great operators, right? Like I went to Kevin Nobis's place and his staff was great, man. Like I was just like, and you can tell, you know what I mean? Like when you talk to a guy like Kevin Nobis from Bonita Jet Ski and Parasail, like he's just a fucking stone cold great operator. And like he wasn't on site and his team was there and his guys were just fucking great. You know what I mean? Like I talked to him and I asked him about the tests and like what they were seeing. And, the guy behind the counter like had a couple like just suggestions and stuff from a customer facing standpoint, but they were just like water sport guys. It was like a great conversation. And I will tell you, man, it was like 1 out of 10. The other 9 were just like making it up as they go along. You know what I mean? They're just like, well, we do this. Like I had one kid who was like, it was the most circular conversation I've ever had. He was like, well, how do you make sure that people don't take the test that don't need to take it? And I'm like, what? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, show up at their house with a gun. You know what I mean? Ask for their ID. And then he was in the same breath, he was like, well, how do you guarantee the people that do need to take it do take it? He's like, we make everybody like sign like a form that says they have 100 hours of boating before they get on our boat. And he's like, some kid asked about something about a tandem, like right in the middle of like us talking to him. He was like, well, make sure they get on the jet ski. And if it's below the water line, then they're too heavy.
Like you're clipping a little bit. So.
Oh, am I? Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm a little loud there. How about now? 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 All right. And he was like, yeah, like get on the jet ski and still like get on below the water line. And I'm like, what? And I get it. You know what I mean? Like to the guy's point or whatever, it was like, they're trying to do the best they can through like safe operations and 100 hours of boating and making sure the people but it's like, again, it's like, you can tell that it's this kind of like fragmented system being run by a kid who's been in the industry for a few years, who has no industry standards. They're in a corner somewhere. You know what I mean? They're arguing with their competition or whatever bullshit it is, but there is no baseline. There is no baseline except when you get into like parasailing, like snorkeling, kayaking, boat rentals, jet skis. Like everybody just kind of makes it up as they go along.
You have licensed captains. You have crew that have to sign up for the drug consortium. So there's like random drug. There's
for sure
things in place. But when it comes to renting boats, there really isn't. And like I said, I'm not advocating for a trade school by any means. I know that's. I think you can learn a lot by just working for people like Kevin, right? Work for some of the best in the industry. I mean, if you're listening to this and you're looking to get into this industry, work for the best companies in your area, and you know who they are. I mean, you can look at reviews, you can look at the way that they, run their operation and just learn from them. But we have a lot.
I don't think it's enough personally. No. I mean, I'm not hiring anybody to go lobby Congress for it or anything like that, but there definitely needs to be a baseline when you still have people like, what's the minimum age to rent a jet ski? That's like still an issue. Oh, I do 14. Well, I do 16. Well, I do 18. Well, the insurance says this. Well, insurance says that. Like, there's been no real discovery on what creates, like, why there's accidents. There's gross underreporting, as we've talked about in other shows about, what causes an accident. I think there's some things being touted out there through the industry. Tallahassee and state of Florida, and then other states. So this is like, I just saw a post from Patrick going like, hey, my insurance guy's leaving the market. Like, who are you guys using for insurance? Like, ding dong, motherfucker. Guess what? It affects Florida, and now it's going to affect every other state.
Yeah, it's starting to trickle down to Georgia and South Carolina now.
Oh, it's going everywhere.
Yeah, it's going to be Alabama next.
It's going to be everywhere.
Coast.
But
So,
this is like what this is like why NASBLA exists, right? This is why there's a National Association of Safe Boating Law Administrators. However, like when you look at even like from a testing perspective, there's so much on there that just has nothing to do at all with what it is that we do. It's like, oh, like, you know, fucking renting a boat or renting a jet ski. Where's the safest place to clean your boat when you're at the ramp? At the ramp? What? You know what I mean? Like, it just so much of the stuff like doesn't apply. And NASBLA and the state of Florida have done, they've done a great job at putting together a product that for our renters that exists nowhere else. There's no TC other than Maine that like addresses Florida issues because of the amount of rentals and watercraft that we have on our waters. But, you know, to your point, there is no place where somebody who wants to get into the business can go, what are best practices? Like even for a kayaking or sub tour, like to your point of the snorkel and drug consortium, people die on snorkeling trips all the time. Like people have heart attacks out on the water. People get left behind out at the reef down in South Florida. Like that shit happens, man. And again, I'm not advocating for any kind of like, you know, trade school as it applies, but I don't know. It's like it's a real disconnection on the education portion.
And going back to my first point earlier about like how this industry is a bottom up approach as far to ownership. You know, people that are getting into it, like when I talk to an operator that wants to sign up with either Wave-Res or Trip Shock, and like I had a guy actually come to my office, which I never get people to come to the office. He wants to start a business. He's a retired firefighter. And I love the way he's approaching it. He's like, Greg, I have my 6-pack license. He's like, I have a lot of hours on the water, but I don't know the charter industry. He's like, I want to understand it. He's like, who should I model my business at? What are the things I need to look at for my marketing? Like this is the top down approach where you have someone with resources, a little bit of knowledge, but wants to understand what he doesn't know. Instead of him just going right in and trying to figure it out and learning from probably some of the ones that shouldn't be, you know, learning. But we need more people like him and he joined our Facebook group. He's listening to the podcast, educating himself, want to be better, want to do things right. I mean, this is kind of like that quasi trade school that I'm talking about, is getting and doing things the right way. If we had more of that, I think it would be a different, a different industry. But at the same time, being that it is the other way, it creates a lot of opportunities for, for people to get in. You know, I think we're kind of past that point where like you have to go to college now or go to trade school to have a good career, have a good job. You don't need to do that. If you work for a great company, have a good mentor, then you can learn all the skills you need on the job and have a successful business. But yeah,
I think there's a lot of disruption coming the whole way from even again, seeing some guys that do have business acumen that are getting into the business, larger water sport companies that are going to probably arise from some of the issues, platforms getting involved. Mm-hmm. I think our industry it's truly primed for some more disruptive practices, people that have money that are coming in and doing things the right way because they want to protect their money, because they look at this industry from a different angle as all these companies as being assets, and they're either underperforming or they're performing above expectations or any one of the many things that come into play when you're going to buy a business and make sure that it's profitable and sustainable and has a longer shelf life than every season. And I can tell you, it's happened more than it's happened more than once. People see this as like a really great, fun business, and if it's managed the right way and done the right way, it's profitable. It's a great way to earn a living. But again, like to your point of people coming in from the industry from the bottom and trying to get all of these other pieces of the business that they don't understand, like to the right at the beginning of the pod, like, you know, if you, like, man, like I saw that there's this company here called Lost Pizza Company. And, oh, wow, look at this. Look, as we speak, I think there's a guy coming to knock on my door for selling me solar. We're not going to answer. And they opened up like 5 locations or whatever it was here in the area. And they have their systems and their processes and their marketing. Like they have all the pieces of the puzzle set. And then boom, they come in and open up the business. And this is what people with business acumen and money do. They like, but water sports is so like, well, I just do it like this, or make it up as I go along, or beg for forgiveness rather than ask for permission. And I unfortunately think that those days are behind us, and there's a lot of small operators that are going to get swept up
and I'll tell you,
lose their
I've had
business.
a lot of conversations recently with people in the industry from a high level platforms, and what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing is a huge consolidation. So there are more platforms for boating experiences now than there ever has been. And it's the investment continues to grow, like vertical based software in marketplaces. The amount of money that's coming in is extraordinary. So, and if you look at it, if the platforms take over all of the available ad space on Google, Facebook, they're outbidding, they're going to form partnerships with the biggest operators in a market. The Destiny Water Ventures, the Extreme H2Os, you know, companies that have a lot of inventory, and everyone else is going to have a hard time getting exposure. And the more this happens, now the smaller companies get bought out by the bigger companies. And now you have a situation like you see in Key West, where there's 3 companies that take up 90% of the market. So, you know, if you are coming into this and you don't have the skill sets to understand marketing, compliance, insurance, it's going to be a lot harder for you, a lot harder, because you're not going to beat the platforms. You're going to have to play with them, but you're not going to beat them. And you're going to have to find ways to utilize them to the best. Like if I'm a new business right now, I'm going to work with all of the platforms immediately. Because if I don't, and 5 years go by and they form relationships with all my competitors, if there's like right now in Trip Shop, there's 270 experiences you can book. And I'm telling you, 80% of those don't get hardly any bookings. So it's the same way with Boat Setter, Get My Boat, Viator, it's all the same way. So it's a different game. And we're going to see a lot happening here in the next few years. So,
well, it's, you know, people always ask me like, you know, it's like, why do you have like 5 different businesses? So I look at my vertical as being rentals, right? So when I got out of driving the boat and realized that I could like rent an asset, keep the asset, sell the asset when I was ready to sell it, I was like, man, like, I mean, it's not like necessarily scalable, but in a physical business in a world like they look at real estate, look, people that have a shitload of money, they don't just have like 2 rental properties; they have got 100 doors. Right? They have a bunch of different rental properties. So I looked at my business no longer as being like a water sport business. I started looking as a rental business. So I'm like, man, like what else can I rent? And I'll tell you, like one of the most frustrating things is I can't find a platform, speaking to all this OTA shit, that can service my rental needs. Right. So a lot of the other stuff, CRM, automation, marketing, operations is a little bit of a different animal, but like I'm constantly trying to, I don't know if it's necessarily vertical integration, but at least integrate some of the connecting pieces to, and it was very, what was very illuminating to me was when I've never signed up for E&O insurance, errors and omission. Firstly, it was like $900 a year. So I was like, oh, that's fun. It's like office insurance. But the one question they had was that do you have one client that makes up more than 15% of your total overall revenue? And from a liability standpoint and from an insurance standpoint, it's kind of like, okay, is there like one piece of this puzzle that stands out more than anything else? Like, what would happen if you lose this one client, right? An asset. What would happen if we lost boat rentals tomorrow? And so I have to sort of build my business and build my revenue streams in accordance with that same type of ethic, that it's like, all right, well, okay, if we lose one client or one offering, that it's not going to put me out of business. Like, we can still pay the rent. We can still keep employees. Like, to have all these different offerings and like, okay, obviously there's going to be probably one better performer than others, but at the same point in time, I'm not getting my throat slit. And so when you look at water sports in general, you know, these great companies that do have the space and do have the manpower and do have the location are not just doing boat rentals. They're doing boat rentals. They're doing jet skis. They're doing parasail. They're doing snorkel. They're doing all of these different things. And again, not a lesson to be learned here, but
yeah, we should really look at vacation rentals, because there's a lot to learn from what is happening in that space, because I feel like they are maybe 5 to 10 years ahead of tours and activities. So Airbnb has literally changed the way people book lodging. And one of the things, I was at a conference and they showed this presentation about how people now don't use the word vacation rental when they search. They use Airbnb. So Airbnb hijacked that that term that people used to use when they search for, for places to stay or vacation rentals, just like jet ski kind of hijacked PWC, which I want to have an episode about it because I noticed some interesting trends on that. So next week we'll have to talk about it. But the point is that Airbnb is now coined as like these are like a vacation rental. Like, no one's searching for vacation rental. Just imagine 5 years down the road, a platform does that to boat rentals. There
already is boat clubs. Like, you have Freedom Boat Club. They're like the largest boat club in the country. Like,
let's just say like that Bodie is the name of the the name of booking a boat rental, just like Airbnb took away vacation rental. Let's say that happens and they hijack our terms and they brand them, and that's all people search for. Like, we got to be prepared for things like this. And now all these vacation rental companies, they're consolidating. The smaller ones are consolidating. The bigger ones have the funds to have a direct marketing, strategy, but they're also stuck with Airbnb. Like, they have to work with them because they have taken that brand name. They can no longer use the word vacation rental because Airbnb took it from them. So it's a whole mess. And the strong are surviving, the ones that are educating themselves and getting involved and trying to find those next big trends. But it's not easy to just start a vacation rental company these days. I think it's going to get harder for boat rental companies.
I wonder, why do you think that hasn't happened? Why isn't there an Airbnb of boat rentals? I can tell you why: jet ski rentals. Liability is fucking a challenge.
I think liability, but I also think that there's a bigger market size for Airbnb than it is for boat rental, and also you can book an Airbnb all year long. Like, think of geography. You can book, even in Florida, you can't book there's not like an opportunity really to book boats or the demand for 100 or 365 days of the year. So I think that's one of the reasons why it's not like, there's just not enough operators to have that effect.
If you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen, if you want a scalable business that you're going to make a ton of money in, unless you're destination based, like, it's a fucking challenge to get rich off of water sports. I'll tell you, man. Like, everybody I talk to, like, guys that have been in business like so long, If you did it in the 80s and 90s, like, but now they're being
you got to be an owner operator in 2024. You got to be an owner operator, and you have to be smart. You got to use platforms. You got to be very aggressive and be very educated and know the latest. It's not like buy a boat, put a sign up on the road, yard sign, and sell. Like, those days are so gone. And maybe some markets can do it, but you definitely can't do it here in Northwest Florida. I'll tell you that. You got to have everything. And Destin is the number 3 domestic travel destination according to booking.com in 2023. Like, we're big. Like, it is.
Well, what's funny is though, you can. And I've had this conversation. No, I mean, I don't think the days are behind of fucking dropping in your boat at the goddamn boat ramp. Maybe in Destin, but if you go on to Boat Setter and Get My Boat, like, their whole fucking business is predicated on the fact that you can do that. Like, it's like, you don't think you can.
You can make a few dollars doing it. Maybe there's the top 1%.
Because it's still happening. It's still fucking happening.
But I'm just saying legit. I'm talking about legitimate. Like, if you want to start a legitimate business, be compliant, and do things, it's different. Like, I feel like you're going to have to really be educated and know what you're doing.
I'm going to do a parasail.
Unless you do it illegally. Then then it's all out the door. But I'm just saying,
I'm going to run an illegal parasail operation. I'm like, fucking meet me at the public park. I'm dropping in my Ocean Pro 35. Everybody get on board while you're on the trailer.
Launch from the beach, like you see, like from Mexico. All those videos. That's funny.
Well, I love it because that's like kind of like where the industry started, man. You know what I mean? Like, that is. Everyone's like, we'll just fucking parasail out the beach. No like insurance. Pull up and grab them and fucking. Yeah, it's like it's super fun.
Yeah,
kill them, murder them.
We're at time, and
we're out of time. Is right.
Yeah, this is a good show. I enjoyed the talk.
Yeah. So they're in a nutshell is Greg's selling style. Sponsor the show. We have employees. Buy tickets now because we really need you to come. And this was a great show. You really sold them.
Hey, at least I'm 100% authentic. There's nothing to hide from what I sell people. There's no snake oil.
Oh my God! I wish there was.
They see right through me, and that's the way.
I need some snake oil. That's what I want to do. Like, I want to sell snake oil. I want to get rich off of GME. Like, I gotta tell you, man. Like, your text inspired me and also fucked me, man. Like, I think you are the world's worst gambler. And because I was like, I wonder about this GME thing, but I think it's at the top. And then I placed my order after hours, like a total fucking noob. And now it's just like, and then like, everyone's like,
I did the same thing. I thought that when I placed my order that I could get it after hours. And
to the moon.
Hey,
no,
it'll come back. It'll come back.
Well, what's his name got involved?
Dave Portnoy and Roaring Kitty.
Yeah, Roaring Kitty made like the first post in like 3 years. Everyone got super excited and bought, and they're like, the mother of all short squeezes is coming. And then it's just like, now I'm just hodling $2,000 worth of shit because like I'm on the other side, right? Like, so like we got a couple minutes here because I really want to short Carvana. I think Carvana is like, just from outside looking in, they reported like this great Q1. They were like reporting these like massive like profit numbers on each car sold. And I'm in the car rental business, right? So I'm like all that anybody's been talking about is a massive bubble in the car rental or in the car sales industry for the last year, right? Like, everybody's sitting on this inventory. Rates are sky high. Book value on used vehicles during COVID is through the fucking roof. Like, I bought a new truck, and to try and buy a used one, it was like way more expensive. And then Carvana's like posting these numbers that they're just killing it. And I'm like, there's no fucking, like, Carvana has been around forever and has been like a huge bag of shit.
I've never used
Well, yeah, you ostensibly buy a car online. Like, they post their thing, you buy the car, have it delivered. It's like quasi a Tesla model. And then you look at Tesla, and Tesla's like the biggest bag of shit. They're like, earnings reports suck. they're cutting jobs. They're not selling a ton of product. And I'm like, and so I started digging on this Carvana, and it's like this father and son who have this like history of fraud. And I'm not like a huge investor, right? Like I watch like The Big Short. I'm on Wall Street Bets on Reddit, and that's about it. I'm the dumbest ape when it comes to investing, right? So I don't know. This is not financial advice.
Well, you didn't lose 300,000 in NFTs, so you're not that bad.
Like I'm still up into the right. Like I don't have like massive gains, but I do okay. But I'm like looking at this stuff, and I'm like rewatching The Big Short, and they're like, oh, like all this massive fraud, right? So it's like when you look at crypto and NFTs, and you look at the housing crisis and even a tech bubble, like this idea of that, like a lot of the of a certain industry will show signals of fraud when it happens. So, and again, I'm not like digging deep in the Wall Street Journal or looking at industry reports of Carvana, but it feels like there's enough there to like buy some puts against Carvana. But apparently, like people have been shorting Carvana for the last 2 years and just getting their buttholes kicked in. But I'm like, I'm like, I want to be a tech guy, man. I want to be one of these guys that sits at a computer, although I can only do it for about 7.5 minutes at a time, and just be like, you know what, I'm going to type some keys and put some numbers and create a software, and I'm going to be like, yeah, make $1 billion, man. I'm going to put an idea on Y Combinator, and someone's going to give me like $100 million because it's the world's greatest idea, and then like I have zero idea how to execute it, but somehow, some way, it's going to happen. I've been doing nothing but watching like options trading videos on YouTube. Like I want to short a stock, a shitty company, or invest in a great company and just see that like 100x like unicorn. And then just come on down to the docks and use some of my winnings to buy some gasoline and just pour it all over and just fucking throw a match and just watch it burn. Like I am like one of those guys. I don't hate my customers. I love my customers, but I hate politicians and I hate attorneys, and they have like made all the fucking fun in this business go away. But I just want to set the whole fucking thing on fire. Invite the attorneys and the landlords and the insurance guys, and we all stand around, roast some marshmallows over a bunch of burning boats and jet skis, and be like, yeah, man, fuck you. And if I'm a billionaire, then I could go around and like, Robin Hood it, give some money to all the other operators, and we all set our shit on fire and burn these fucking lawyers and insurance companies' cash cow to the ground. Because sometimes it feels like they're the only ones making any money on the shit.
Yeah,
fucking
be fun.
Motherfuckers. Yeah.
And that's a perfect way to end the show. We appreciate all you listening. As always, keep it awkward.
Keep it angry.
Not too awkward and angry.
Keep it angry.
All right. See ya.